Never know.
Well, hello. Hope everybody is doing well. I'm DNN Dave, and this is Southern Fried DNN Meetup. Got my handy dandy co-host Ryan Moore. Thank you for joining us, sir. Even though you didn't find out about it until a few minutes ago, so thank you for doing that.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here for another Southern Fried meeting tonight. It's going to be excellent, as they always are. But always glad every month to see our good friends show back up and hang out and talk DNN for a while.
It's good to see everybody that joined us live here today. And if you're watching after the fact, thank you for joining us after the fact. I hope you found this content really useful. If there's other content that you would like to see that you haven't seen yet in the DNN meetup here, let us know in the comments below or on the meetup.com comments section for the event. So we'd love to hear your feedback. And also, if you are interested in speaking or presenting something or just sharing some 5-minute tips here or there or something like that, we can work you into a meetup. So join us and we'll get you scheduled right in. So for this meetup, we're going to hear a little bit later from Jeremy Farrance. He's going to be talking about a neat little feature in 2SXC, and that's a structured content solution that's built on top of DNN. But first, before we jump into that, let's get through a little bit of community buzz and announcements here of what all's going on. I don't have a ton
Dave, you might want to share your screen. We're not sharing yet.
I'm getting ready to, Ryan. Thank you very much. Yes, so like one of the things that wanted to mention here is, you know, and I've got probably kind of eat crow several times on this. Is my screen sharing now? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're in good shape.
I have guessed on this a few times and been wrong due to various reasons. But the upcoming release of DNN 9.11.1 will be happening sometime in the very near future. How you like that for commitment on a date, huh? But I think we're actually
accurate. It will come true.
Reason I was bringing it up on this meetup is because I know we've talked about it several times, but there has been quite a few issues that have been reported that are ones that we want to make sure were included in the next release, and that's kind of been the delay. So between those being reported and then having community members that have the time and ability to be able to contribute fixes or changes to address those issues is always a hit or miss kind of thing, you know, in an open source project like this. But we have one of the superstars on the meetup here with us right now, and that is Daniel Velas. Daniel Velas, would you like to give us a little update on some of the changes that you've made recently in DNN to be able to prep us for that?
I've been doing in the last days a couple of dependency updates and a couple of fixes on the resource manager. Since you're sharing your screen, if you go to, I guess you can filter by my name.
That's what I was thinking.
I think in the filters drop down, I think, or there. Yeah, there's been an issue, like if you try to export a package in the persona bar, that's fixed, like creating a zip for an existing module or a theme or whatever extension. It would give you a 0 size zip file due to a recent change to the zip library we use. Well, that's been fixed. SQL editor height was like not visible at all. Now it's fine. Was a little glitch with a CSS class that was missed. We are not on the latest React, but we bumped to the latest major version of React. So it's not a breaking change, but it's going to remove in the console logs. There's a C is not a function or R is not a function that like always shows. That's now gone thanks to that.
And
also,
that was the latest minor version, by the way, not the latest major version. Yeah.
Well, it's the latest 16.
Right, minor.
So, yeah, depends how you think, but yeah. And that also prepares us for the next major DNN version to bump React to 17 or 18.
Or 25, wherever they're at these days.
Yeah, whatever number they are at. Source maps. So all these minified JavaScript files, they have an associated source map file, which means they load only when you're in the browser console. And if you have a bug somewhere, like the R is not a function, well, instead of telling you R is not a function, it's going to give you like the original function name before it was minified. So that doesn't affect anything, but it's greatly useful for debugging purposes.
Yeah, for tracking down problems. That's excellent.
Yep. There's also like different React dependencies that were bumped like here and there for individual components. The resource manager, if you were not in the normal mode, so if you were in user mode or if you were in group mode, the root folder you should have as a, let's say as a group administrator, permissions to edit the root folder. And that wasn't working because the root folder was not an actual folder, but just like the root. So we didn't have a context menu on it or anything. So that has been fixed. I don't know which issue, but there was also an issue you couldn't edit at all a folder on the root because it had no name. The root has no name. I think it was part of that one. That's kind of related to what I explained. We can prevent SMTP test emails.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was back in December.
Oh, that was a long time ago. Okay, cool.
I mean, it's still 4.9.11.1. That's been a while back since you did that. So,
okay.
And there's been a few other contributions recently too that will help us get to 9.11.1. But I kind of wanted to give Daniel a little bit of a spotlight there because he has been doing a lot over the past 2 weeks because he freed up a little bit of time to be able to kind of focus on some of those things. So I don't know if I probably say this way too much, but you know, for people like Daniel and people that are making contributions to the platform, if you're not already, please consider sponsoring them on GitHub because all this stuff is done for free. And some of these things aren't trivial. I mean, they're not like 5-minute little efforts and stuff. So if you use DNN, you love DNN and you appreciate all the enhancements, the security and the fixes and the things like that, be sure to support those that are contributing to that. Because I know a lot of us run our businesses off of this platform and make money. So it'd be nice to pass along a little bit of appreciation, even if it's enough for a coffee here or there or something. That would be, it goes a long ways, and you know, just a nice way to say thank you. So Daniel, thanks for your effort on that. So my guess was this, I kind of did this the other day, we probably will have an RC, you know, barring no issues, probably next week-ish. I suppose it could be the following week if something does come up, but as it stands right now, barring no crazy issue that comes in that just has to be done, we should be able to do a release of a release candidate next week. And then
soon, trademark.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we have a sticker in the DNN
we have in Discord
community Discord for DNN soon. So be sure to check that one out.
Can I add something also in the issues? We had about like 165 issues or something. So with the fixes, and I went also through all the issues that didn't have a milestone assigned and tried to reproduce them and see if we had an actual bug in DNN and this and that. So now we have 134 open issues. And if anyone that is not a developer, but can fire up a dev site, wants to help with this is something that's really useful. Also, just going through issues, and like sometimes it was reported in 9.6 or something, and it's been fixed, but nobody closed the issue, or you can't make it happen. So just asking the original person, you know, you have more details because I can't make it happen. That really helps, because when a developer has time, if he spends half his time just going through issues and finding something that's actionable, is a big waste of development time.
Absolutely. So a little bit of cleanup there. So, that should help you too, as you're looking through to find stuff to work on. If if you do want to try to make contributions, a lot of these things that are marked for future patch means that that'll be included in the very next release, regardless of whether or not it's a minor or a major release. The ones that are minor will be held. I mean, you can still contribute, but it would not come until the next minor release for DNN. And then, and these are, best guesses at this point. Any of these could change if it ends up not being, that. But it's a perceived breaking change. Therefore, it would be in a different kind of milestone than a patch.
Yeah, so the way I usually put it in those buckets is like, if it's a bug that would go in a patch, it fixes something, I assign patch. If it's like a new feature that I don't think would be breaking, we go into minor. And if it's something that we're pretty sure it's going to be a breaking change, then it goes into major.
Yeah.
But it can change depending on whatever PR comes in about it. It's just a ballpark.
Well, it's nice to see the issue count come down that far, and it's also nice to see that a milestone's been assigned to each of these. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited about 9.11.1 coming because it's been a little bit since 9.11.0 has been out. So it'll be nice to get a nice stabilization and some fixes to some of those issues that were. A lot of them were related to the resource manager. So it's nice to see that getting more buttoned up on things that we just didn't foresee as being issues before. So you know how it is. Everybody tests after it releases, right? Instead of before it. So looking forward to that.
And also resource manager was a hard project. So there's a lot of details and usage cases that were not easily surfaced until it actually got into use.
Yeah, and it's a like brand new thing. So it's like version 0, really. It's like it wasn't reworking something. It was like built from scratch. So it's expected that there's little misses here and there.
Good news is, I mean, even though there were quite a few issues posted, they weren't like major show-stopping
critical
issues. At least most of them weren't. Most of them were more edge cases or very specific things that couldn't do. There's only a few of them that really were related to anything major. So it's nice to see those resolved and coming up in that. Let's see. I think what I'd like to do now is just kind of point out DNN Summit because we are getting close. I mean, before the next meetup, we will have had DNN Summit already. So Ryan, do you have any kind of like information that you'd like to share, about some things related to DNN Summit?
I've got all kinds of things to relay for DNN Summit here. We, like David said, we are less than a month away. If you haven't already registered for the event, now is definitely the time to do so. One of the things that we have seen with registration for DNN Summit in the past couple of years, since it has been virtual, since quarantine, that we have a lot of registrations on the day of or the day before. And of course, since it's a virtual conference, you're not traveling to come, then it is perfectly easy for you to register the day of. We certainly want to encourage you to do that if you need to. However, for planning purposes and for other things that we're doing to prepare the conference, it really helps us to know the volume of attendees we're going to have registered and coming for the conference. So I'd like to encourage everybody who's on tonight and everybody who's watching, go in and register for DNN Summit. There are a number of things that happen when you're registering. You're helping support the community and having these conferences go forward in the future. We have stated that the next conference in 24 is going to be an in-person one, and we'll find locations for it, but we're hoping to have a hybrid so that it's still also online, because we certainly have had a different group of users participating in the online conferences who never are able to make in person. So it's an opportunity for us to all have a mixture of things. But this year, here, February 8th and 9th, we have 2 days of community conferences with a cavalcade of stars giving us speaker sessions, presenting information that is from other business owners and other business leaders and developers just like you and me, presenting and participating in the community and showing DNN stories, tips and tricks on how to work and do different things in DNN, different ways of approaching and solving problems. There are also different business cases and showcases. We also have our sponsors with sponsor sessions. Excuse me. This year we have a number of sponsors. The DNN Corporate Ignite Tech organization is a sponsor, and they'll have a booth and a presentation. David here with Envisionative, 10-Pound Gorilla Cassidy, Mitch, Iowa Computer Gurus, folks from DNN for Less are also promoting. Bogdan and DNN Sharp Group with Plant an App are sponsors this year. I'm a sponsor, and many of us have booths and presentations to give. I'd like to also come back to that idea of registering now, because myself on the committee of people who helped put on the DNN Summit, this year I've been in charge of the swag and the presentation materials. One of the things that I love out of going to conferences is talking to people and meeting all of the vendors and getting these swag items to bring home. It's like candy and a party at Christmas when you visit your DNN friends. And so we've put together a package of items that we're going to be shipping out to everyone who registers, or rather the first 200 people who register will be receiving a package. And as long as we get a couple of more items in by the beginning of next week, we plan to ship those in time that you should have your swag boxes in hand before the conference, so that you can enjoy the DNN accoutrements and DNN Summit items that we've presented. We have this year, one of my favorite new items that we're able to provide is a set of DNN and DNN Summit themed enamel pins. And I'm going to kind of come to the camera here. Let me know if these stay in focus. But we have the DNN logo. We have I Love DNN. Our DNN Summit logo looks fantastic there. But my favorite is this year's DNN Yeti. Let's see if he'll focus. Our DNN Yeti, which has in his hands a little tiny laptop with a little tiny DNN Summit logo on that laptop. This year's DNN Yeti has been provided by the OpenAI graphics generator DALL-E, and have had a blast creating this year's Summit Yeti. So he not only appears on this pin, but he appears in some of our marketing graphics and our t-shirt. Again, he was generated by DALL-E OpenAI art generation, and it's loads of fun to take a look at how weird and interesting those images are. But I certainly want to mention that we've got a lot of things going into that package that we're shipping out to the first 200 people who have registered. David here with Envisionative, we have Envy QuickSight, which is immeasurably useful. We have Envy Quick Theme, which is immediately useful for folks putting up a brand new DNN instance and starting with that theme or wanting to build off of it. But David has continued and enjoys the fun of the joke, and we have Envy Quick Clip. Woo! Clapping and cheering for Envy Quick Clip going into the swag items. So we have a lot of fun from the sponsors who put together a set of things to send out as a care package to everyone who signs up early. So the main thing to do is make sure that you are part of that initial 200 registered. And I took a look at it, I don't know, last week, and we were at 80 or 90 registered. So I'm sure it's up from there at this point. It starts to skyrocket, but even if you sign up later, we'll still try to ship the box out to you. But if you sign up towards the end, we may not get it to you in time for you to share off, with other people before DNN Summit. If you happen to get your package in early, please do us a favor and use some social promoting and put pictures of your items or your T-shirts or things, maybe you're unboxing, and put those with the DNN Summit hashtag and promote, and help us come to that event with as many registered folks in the know as possible.
Fantastic.
Anything I missed, David? You think that's it?
I mean, any other cool items in there that are cool? I mean, I know you don't want to give away everything here, but I mean, like, is there anything else cool in there?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I wanted to give away any of it.
Yeah.
Actually, the deal is I have photos to pass to Clint, and he's going to be promoting some more of the items with social posts. So we'll let those roll out over the next few days.
I'll sit on the edge of my seat and await seeing that. Cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. So I hope everybody can attend and participate in this year's DNN Summit 2023, February the 8th and the 9th. If you haven't registered, be sure to register. Okay. I believe that's it for community stuff, unless there is something that maybe happened that I missed. Does anybody have anything that I may have missed?
Yes, as of 5 seconds ago, I have created an event Saturday, 7 p.m., regular open source co-coding session on Discord. If anyone wants to work together or just hang out and encourage people and learn whatever, as long as it's related to DNN open source, we'll be working on that.
But Daniel, didn't you do everything that needs to be done for DNNs? We don't have anything to do, right?
No, you just showed there's 137 issues.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
So there will be 37 left after Saturday.
That's awesome. No, those sessions are actually really cool. I mean, even if you're not a hardcore developer, there's always something to learn in those. If it's setting up an environment or something. I was inspired by Jeremy, who came to one of those, and then afterwards, sorry to put you on the spot here, but afterwards you were like, I'm going to go through this and try to kind of document how to set up the environment and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing kind of how that went.
Yeah, a lot has changed. I'm looking forward to that too. And I hope I don't interrupt you guys too much with questions and sidetracks.
That's what it's for. I mean, for us to kind of be in existence together.
I expect it to be fun. We'll see how far I get. I want to get to the finish line, but I'm not counting on it.
That'll be cool. Very cool. Well, I guess that's a good segue into this. Tonight, our presenter is Jeremy Farrance. So woo-hoo, big claps and a round of applause. I'm not going to steal any of your thunder, but I know you're going to focus on some cool areas of 2SXE that you may or may not know about. So I'll just let you take it away, and feel free to tell us a little bit about you and your company too, because I know there's people here that know you that are live here, but there may be some people that are watching after the fact that may not know who you are and who your company is. So please be sure to tell us that.
All right. Can you hear me?
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yes.
So it was a good way to start. I've started at least one meeting where I talked for a full minute before I got the visual cues that, hey, we can't hear you. All right, hang on one sec. I have to do the sharing thing. Just do the whole screen. I'll put this stuff over here. All right, so my name is Jeremy Farrance. I own a company called Security Solutions. We're an agency firm that helps people make awesome websites and be online. And I call it plumber's wife syndrome now. Our website's getting old. We made this in 2014, and I still think it looks cool, but we've started to do a new one, and that's in progress right now. And what I'll be talking about tonight, since about 2SXE version 13, we've had formulas, but I haven't seen a lot of people using them. And recently we dug in and needed to do something that I thought ended up being pretty darned impressive. So I wanted to demo that tonight. I'll do a quick intro basic stuff first, and then I'm going to show an advanced example and try and explain it a little bit, because it's really interesting, because the formulas execute in 2Sexy's edit UI. So you're in kind of a very exclusive JavaScript sandbox when you're executing these formulas. And so you can't reach outside of Angular onto the DNN page and expect to do stuff. You're kind of encased. Anyhow, I will get into that. Just wanted to show that I'm on 2Sexy version 14.12.3. That I believe is the latest LTS. I'm also on DNN 9.10.2. So that sets the groundwork for anything you see. You can ignore this stuff on the page. There's no view involved here. I'm going to go straight into 2Sexy's admin and my formula demo. There's nothing in the web API. There's just a blank view, no queries. We're just talking about content types. So the first thing I wanted to do was just at least quickly try to talk through the schema that I'm going to present the problem in 2Sexy and solve. What we're basically dealing with here is a relational database, but we're doing it in 2Sexy content types with related entities. So we're doing events is the main, the main master record. Things like a National Association of Broadcasters happens every year. That's a big event. I've only got a few fields in here because it's a demo, but normally in another project we did, there's something like 87 fields in these event categories if you branch out between all the related stuff. So what we're doing here is you're seeing NEB has a title and a year. In our real database, the year is in a separate date field, but it has a location. It has a start date. Those all sound normal. Those are all things that happen. Each event is different. Like you could do NAB, you can do Comdex, CES. They all have those same repeating fields. What I'm focusing on here is participants. So just to show you real quickly, locations is a separate field, and that's pointed to here. So that if I delete this, you can see that I can link to Las Vegas from the locations content type. Discard that change. And the other thing is we have organizations. The reason we have organizations is because we have event participants. Each event, you guys are probably pretty used to the concept, has sponsors. They have exhibitors. And we've had it where our example will get kind of complex is we're also going to keep track of speakers here, people that are actually speaking at the event. And you'll notice this sounds a little bit like DNN Summit, but that was not intended.
I was going to I'm very disappointed that you did not use DNN Summit for the example instead of NAB.
It's not too late. It's not too late. I think I can adapt. So just to show you, for those of you that are used to this stuff, as I said, location, it's an entity field, and it's what you expect. It's pointing to the location's content type. Participants gets a little more complex, though, because it's pointing to event participant. And then when you get into event participant, oops, wrong one, you're now going down another level and you're pointing to organizations. So you get a multi-level schema here. So now what I'm going to show you real quick is I've got an event, NEB 2022. I'm going to start adding participants. We're going to select the organization. You know what? I'm going to do what David said, and I'm going to risk the extra distraction. We're going to do DNN Summit. What's the location again? It's online, I guess.
Yeah, it
So
sounds
we're
good.
just going to put online
Virtual.
in here for now. We'll put virtual. I don't care what goes in here. Nobody's going to yell at me for it. Date start, what is it? February what?
8th.
Cool. Okay, so participants, we know that one of the participants is envisionative. I don't know how to spell that. You'll have to forgive me. Tiv, is that close enough?
You
This is
did
all
better than
lowercase?
some people do. There you go.
Envisionative. Okay. And we can put in a logo and URL. We're not going to. You can add a location. They're in a big city. So we have envisionative in there. So they are a participant type. I think they're a sponsor. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, but this is, there's speaker fields here for full name and details, and we don't need to fill those out. And that's my first hint at problems, but we're going to solve a few different problems. So we're going to save that, and you'll see envisionative up here. Now, also, envisionative is a speaker, and that speaker name is Poindexter. Uh-oh, fat finger to key. Let's see, he's going to present on Too Sexy formulas again. Formulas, I can't spell.
That's formulas.
All right. Now, here's the first problem with Too Sexy. I have envisionative in here as a sponsor, and I don't need speaker fields and speaker details, full name and details. And they're also in here as a speaker, and I do need these fields. So one of the first things I want to show you guys is what formulas can do to make the data entry a little more fluid, so you don't have people staring at fields where they don't need to enter them. So we're going to save this for now. And we're going to go back in here. We're going to go to the event participant field. And so notice one of the things I said is we don't want to see the speaker full name field or details unless the participant type, and notice there can be sponsor, exhibitor, speaker, and other, unless the speaker type has been set to, unless the participant type has been set to speaker, we don't want to see those fields. And they've made that super easy nowadays. So I'll show you the first one. We're going to do just details, and we're going to pin that as visible or not. So I'm going to add a formula, value visible. This is going to be visible. So in this case, you know, if you do this often enough, you know this is Boolean stuff. So all it's looking for is to return a value of true or false. This default statement you see here wouldn't do anything because it's returning whatever value is already in there. So what we're going to do, I have these saved over here so I don't have to type all this for you. Notice this is always your start. This is very readable. You're saying the data that's in front of me, give me the participant type. Is it equal to speaker? If yes, true, in other words, be visible, or false, don't be visible. So now, that was not a lot of code, and it was actually readable and understandable. So now if we go back here into an event participant, like, let's do this one. No, I'm going to add a new one. Doesn't matter. Give me another organization that says speaker.
More creative.
All right. Participant type is, notice, did you guys notice there's less fields here now?
Already, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaker,
Because until
boom,
you mark this
look
true,
what
they
just
won't show.
appeared.
Yeah, nice.
Right. So Ryan would talk about what
Yeah.
XMod.
Probably would.
Maybe. All right, so now we're going to take that a step further. And you'll notice there was not a lot of code going on here. Very readable. So now we're going to take the full name field and I'm going to do two different things. just to show you a case where you can add multiple formulas. So we're going to repeat the exact same thing you just saw. Visible. I'm going to leave that default. I'm going to paste the exact same code in here. Why? Because we're dealing with the same data type. So all I need is data. Participant is the name of the content type, and it's going to be equal to speaker. True for visible, false otherwise. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with the exact same code with required. So basically, when they choose speaker, I at least want a full name, but I'm not going to make them fill out details. Same code again. Boink. So now, can't believe I haven't made a mistake yet. Did I say that out loud? All right, so now let's just go into one of these for now. So now you can see both of these fields are visible, but it's live and active. If I change it to exhibitor, they vanish. And if you know too sexy, the data in those fields is not going to get deleted, but they're hidden from entry. So it makes the data entry feel a lot more fluid. There's less to do, less fields to stare at and decide, make decisions on. It's basically a better UI just by changing these this way. And let's do that, save. All right, so you've already seen what formulas do, where they are in the content types, and how easy it is to just trigger something on and off. So what I want to do next is kind of solve another problem that you're seeing here. So let's go back to what we were originally talking about at the DNN Summit. Notice when the participants here, we still see envisionative twice. And even if you hover, you don't get any information. Even if you go up to here, you don't get any extra information. You have to dig all the way into the entity to see that this one's the sponsor and this one's the speaker. And what a problem is with that is, suppose you're in a meeting, you go over this stuff and someone says, hey, I just noticed on DNN Summit, you need to fix the sponsor one because he's not a sponsor, he's an exhibitor. So now if you're in here and you do this, you can't tell which one to click on. And we've had situations where companies like Canon or Google are in here like 8 times. And you can't tell which exhibitor, which sponsor, and sometimes there's 3 speakers from one company. So you need a way to be able to see more than just this one field that we have selected as title. So that's the next problem we're going to solve. And I will, for those who aren't familiar with it, I'm just going to show you one other feature real quick. In the event participant, the reason you're seeing envisionative is because of this star here. We've said that the organization field is the title, and that's what's showing in that little pill and when you go into the edit interface. So now, to solve this problem, we're going to do it poorly at first, and then we're going to take poorly and turn it into pretty wonderful. So what we need is a title. Just going to be a string, basic text. Save. Move it to the top. I'm going to make that my visible title, and I named it title, not to confuse anybody, but now we go back in here and notice these are all blank. And that's because there's nothing in those fields yet. I can still go in and edit it. So now I'm just going to type more creative speaker, comma, Ryan Moore. And I'm going to go to this one. We'll do envisionative. Leave it like that for now. And so you can start to see that this is more useful if I go into my event wait for it, and come up here, look at my bullets now. This one's nice. This one's still empty, so they showed us the ID because there's no title. If I go to
That's a nice
here,
callback. Yeah.
and I hit edit, and I put something in here. Give it a second, and now you see that. So you can start to see that we can, as we enter them, make things better. The problem is now the person doing the job has a title to type. And if I type envisionative sponsor, now I'm doing the same thing again. I'm choosing envisionative and I'm entering sponsor again. And if any of you know, are database people, you know that entering things twice is not good. This is getting slower and slower. That could be my machine. So the fact that I had to type envisionative, even though it's right here, and the word sponsor, even though it's right here, that seemed crazy to me, and it was something we wanted to solve. So the first time we saw formulas, we're like, okay, now we're onto something. And the first few evolutions of formulas, we couldn't get this done. But eventually, they added the ability to hit the web API and have access to the built-in Too Sexy. Here, I'll just show you where the docs are. So if you guys have done stuff on the front end and had to reach back into Too Sexy, you probably know that there's a sexy.data. And this looks very much like the back end, but this is the front end. This is JavaScript, and you can go get the author's content type. And then you can start doing stuff like a get all and a .then and start actually working on this stuff. And it's fairly readable, and it looks a lot like the stuff you do in C#, but it's not the same, and there's some gotchas. But anyhow, once we realized the formulas could access that stuff, we went after it and came up with what I think is a fairly complex example. So now I'm going to leave this alone. We are now going to go back to our content type, event participants. We're going to go in here. We still want to store the title, so I'm not going to change that. So in the user interface, we still want it visible, but I'm going to turn it off so it's no longer editable. And I'll show you why, because we're going to add a formula that's going to build that field from the other fields. Anyone get excited by that sentence?
Yeah, I just got little chills.
Very, very much. Actually, I was like, ooh, over here.
I know. And once we realized we could do it, we got pretty excited. So it took a few different efforts between me and Jared, each doing pieces of it and having breakthroughs and doing a little dance around the office. But it's cool to see this stuff come into play. All right, so here's my advanced example. I am not going to write this code in front of you. So here's what we need to do. We need to disable edits. We've already added the title field. So now we're going to add the target for the formula is the field value, the title field that we added. And so this one is going to, I like changing these and making it so that you have something useful in here from org plus type. So if you look at it in 3 months, you know what the heck's going on. So I'm just going to first show you something interesting. So right now, like I said before, the default does nothing. It just returns itself. But I wanted to show you that we have access to this data item, and that data item knows about organization, because if you remember in the event participant, we had a field called organization pointing to an entity type, pointing to the content types, and we're assigning one. So I don't know if you guys can see what this is going to do, but we're going to go into the data. We're going to look at the organization field, and it allows multiple items. It's an array. and we're going to return the first one. But that's not the whole story. I'm just doing it to demonstrate for you
But wait,
the steps we needed to take and solve here. So now we're going to go back. Notice you can see your formulas over here in case I forgot to point that out. Now when we go to event participants, this isn't the final solution yet. I'm just showing you what's going on here. I apologize for how slow this has gotten. I'm going to do something a little weird. So that's what we typed in before. So I need to show you what happens when we do a new one. When I select envisionative, okay, it's not working. Hang on, got to backpedal. Got my first problem. So event participants, fields, title, formula. Sorry, there it is, return. I accidentally typed over that. All right, so now when I go to event participants, add a new one. You guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
A little lighter or a little lower, but yeah.
All right, how about now?
But that's good. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to select that. Now, do you notice what's happened here? That little bit of JavaScript returned the correct thing, but it only returned the GUID of it. So locally in our scope, the only thing we have is the immediate data of these fields for this one record in the content type. And when we assigned envisionative, the only thing that's being stored is the GUID. What we need to do is now, in the old days, we would have said hydrate the object so that we actually pull back the entire organization content type for that GUID. And as I briefly showed you before, where did I put that screen? That's right here. We're going to do that by using this function here called getOne. And even though that says ID, they need a GUID. We've tried it with regular IDs and it doesn't work, which is good because they return the GUID automatically, so we didn't have to do any extra work. So now we're going to proceed back to our formula. And this time I'm going to type in the whole giant one. And I'm going to gloss over it a little bit, but I'll explain a couple of the important things to know. And that's coming from right here, here, here. Let me see if I can show you more of this. All right, in very quick succession, there's still comments in here from when we were debugging it. So the first thing we want to do is see if we have cache data. And if we do something with it and return it. The important thing here, though, is we add our own cache item called already run. And we set that after we've performed the work of the API here, the going and getting resolving the GUID into the full hydrated organization, because we need information out of there, like the name. So here we are setting already run to true. And then we fall through and start doing the work. So you've got sexy, data, organization. Notice it's this should actually be up here. Might make more sense to people. I put it down there because I like to read stuff my way. Get one, and then here's that data you saw before. So we know already, I showed you, this resolves to the GUID of whatever's stored in there. And this is the important part. This is what throws us, I guess, out of scope is one way to put it. We're doing a dot then. So get one is hitting 2Sexy's own API and saying, give me back, hydrate for me this whole result with the GUID that I give you from organizations. Then we're just doing JavaScript. So the end result that I'm going for is the name of the organization, the full name of the speaker, and any details afterwards. So we start off by declaring a variable, and it's empty. The second part is empty. Now, if participant type is not equal to null, you have to be a little careful with your data, so you don't want to throw an error and not do anything. If you saw this before, data participant type equals speaker. If that's the case, P3 becomes a comma and add on the speaker name. And then we get the participant type. So this would give us the word speaker. And then I got fancy and I basically take the participant type, character 0, uppercase it, and then add the rest of it back on. So that should look normal to JavaScript people, I guess. And then we concatenate those three things together. And we also do this. I forget the case where we needed this, but even though we've just done all this out of context, out of scope with the then, it's a good idea to refresh and run all the formulas again, especially if you're doing complex things that kind of go back and forth and affect multiple fields. So that's just kind of a friendly, hey, all you guys go run again, just so in case two things changed that added one result. Hopefully that makes sense. So now, with that giant formula in there, go back into event participants, come up in here, and notice this says envisionative with a dash, participant type speaker, our fields appear, David Poindexter, and he's going to talk about NV quick clip because we need a presentation on that. All right. Let's see, speaker. I didn't get the name yet, and the reason for that is because I copied the code from a different project, I'm guessing, and that the name of that field was different. So let me go back here, see if I can fix that quickly and make everything look nice like I intended. Speaker, there it is. Speaker full name. I got a little OCD when I created this demo project. And then participant type worked. Still not working. That changes. Speaker, that changes. Is it worth me getting this working? Let me have one more try if you don't mind.
My guess is it wasn't running because no values changed in the field.
Say that again.
The actual name field, I'm guessing because you didn't change a value in there, it probably didn't trigger the formula to read that field. It kept it in cache. In other words, you'd have to change David Poindexter, put a space in it and add something back or something.
You're right.
Is that
So
because
we'll
it's the if speaker name there on the outer of the formula?
Hang on one sec. So we're just going to do more creative. Boom. Speaker. No, it's still not picking it up.
I think the wrapping You also had to change speaker name to speaker full name on the formula.
But I did. Did I maybe not save it just now?
You changed
One
on the
more.
inside, but not on the outside one.
There was two places.
Yeah,
You
there was
needed
two
one.
places.
Thank you. That's what I missed.
Is
Here's
it just
one of
the
them.
line
Where's
the line
the-
above? Don't you need the data speaker full name as well? If data dot, yeah.
Perfect. Good catch. You get a hug for that. Thank you.
It's
But
so
you
easy
are
to
gonna-
find bugs on other people's
You got
codes.
one
On
more.
our own, it's like blind.
You got one more issue there. Sorry, you
Oh.
didn't put a
Go ahead.
space
What was it?
between. You didn't put a.
It is working though.
Oh, okay. There was no space between the bang equals and the speaker
Oh,
name
okay.
variable. So you got lucky. JavaScript worked. So it figured
Yeah,
it out.
JavaScript's a little too forgiving to me sometimes. I'm glad TypeScript is not. Okay, so now, just to real quickly go through here, one of the nice things is I only have to open and save these, and my formulas get executed.
Mhm.
Sponsor doesn't need anything, so that one's correct. This one fixes itself. So they're all, here we go. And so now to show you why we went through all this again, back at the beginning. Now when we're dealing with events and people are adding the participants, nobody has to enter anything in this field anymore. So if we do speaker and poster, I'm showing my age. And as you can see, everything just keeps being really nice and editable. And now you can read these things. We'll get that one saved also.
You
Just
didn't
a
update.
second.
Oh, they.
Boom. Yeah, and it takes a second to update, at least when I've got, I don't know if you can tell, watch this. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
I have quite a few tabs open.
Yeah, that's all of us, right?
Yeah.
Chrome.
All right. Well,
pretty
anyhow,
rough on performance.
that's the
these
bulk
days.
of it. I'd like to ask anyone, does anyone have any questions or details? I'm glad we sorted out that last little bug with some help from the good eyes out in the gallery.
I
have a
actually
question.
think. Go ahead.
Well, it's good. I have a question on the caching side of things. Is that for everybody, or is that one of those premium features? Can't remember what they call them, but
No,
the
I don't have any.
patron features.
Yeah, you're okay. You're talking about Lightning is the one where you have to toss some credits on the patron thing. This is just the built-in normal caching.
Okay,
There's
so
just
this
a little
is
cache in place that resolves the data in place for you. And yeah, there's no extra features here. As a matter of fact, I would like to check that if you don't mind. That's just right here. On most of our projects nowadays, we are registering as a patron anyhow and not using credits just to turn on a few of the extra nice ones. But even these don't turn on until you register. And we've used some of these, kind of getting used to it. I don't know if anyone else is playing with this stuff, but it's quite a few extra steps, but it works out well. Another thing I did not show that is worth showing in the context of this video, and I'll call it a wrap after this. One of the things you should do when you pull up their documentation and really start playing around, they have fantastic demos. Oh, let me go backwards. In this tutorial, which I hope you guys all spend lots of time in, there's tons of great stuff in here to learn. This formulas one here got added with the edit UI.
Okay.
These are fabulous. So if you really want to see, here's a full REST API call. I cheated and used the local sexy.data.stuff. Here's ones that use the full fetch. I think it's using fetch, isn't it? Where is it? There it is.
Fetch JSON. Yeah.
Yep, fetch JSON. Yep. So these are pretty advanced, but you'll notice they're doing the same thing, just in a more abbreviated fashion. Let me show you this one because it's more similar. Similar. If it has a value, just return it. If it's stored in the cache, return it. Prevent the API. He does it in 2 quick steps. We're going to switch to this now, but you'll notice where we got that item name from. And then he just does his stuff. The then is what puts you out of scope, stores everything, runs formulas to be polite. So it's very similar. We're just using the sexy data and not dealing directly with an API. So I wanted to make sure that people saw today that you don't have to go build an API for this stuff. There's a lot of built-into sexy commands that work from JavaScript. And it's worked out pretty wonderful on this. We've used
Jeremy,
this in 2 or 3 different ways on this project.
I've got a question for you. When you say, if you go back to that screen that you were on there, when you say out of scope, back on the demo, the Razor demo ones from the 270 docs. Well, I mean, you could show it. It was just easier.
The tutorials page that you were before.
The Razor demos that you were showing.
Oh, sorry.
In the documentation, yeah. It's just easier to see there because it's color coded. But when you say, so line 14 here is the then event of a promise, right?
Right.
What are you meaning when you say out of scope?
Because if you don't put it into Sexy's cache, returning it as a value never happens because the API didn't complete in time for the the space you're running in. I forget what he called it. I keep calling it out of scope, and you're correct. This is not a scoping issue in JavaScript, but it's running out of context, I guess. So if you don't put this in the cache and then use it up here like this, you'll never see your value come back because the API took a few milliseconds to complete and JavaScript finished before then.
Yeah, because
fetch
JSON is a synchronous call. So yeah, I was just confused by the out of scope, but I think you're right. It's not that it's out of scope. It's just that it's running in a synchronous fashion. You have to manually update the cache in order for it to be able to be read in time. Well, after time.
Yeah, he gets into detail if you read the docs on the sequence things happen in and why it's not there, even though you think you've returned it. But anyhow, I'm not that kind of deep level JavaScript developer, so I apologize for calling it out of scope.
Oh, it's okay. I figured it meant something similar to what you're kind of saying. It's just that you have to manually handle it. It's not going to automatically wait for that before you need it. So you have to update it manually.
Right. Okay. Well, there's lots of other stuff to show off here, and I hope you guys check out the documentation and play with this because there's a lot more advanced stuff you can do. I mean, over the years, I'm sure if you've played enough with 2Sexy, you've kind of complained about the edit UI. You're kind of like in handcuffs, and this solves a lot of the basic and a few of the advanced problems and things you want to do in there. It's really nice. I'm really glad they added it.
So, Jeremy, since we have a little bit of time here, would you mind trying something for me just to kind of prove something? I mean, I don't want to. This is a demo environment, right? I mean, in other words, this is not something.
Oh yeah, really not.
Yeah, if you go back into the formula and where you've got the then of the promise, return. So if you go down to the bottom of the then, so basically where you close the curly brace, but before the closing of the parentheses, if you take those two lines that are above your cursor, well, I'm sorry, no, you can't do that. Okay. But you could take context.form.run formulas, just that one line. If you Control X there, and then after your close curly brace, no, after the, no, not there. No, after the curly brace, not the semicolon. Nope. Yep. There you go. Do a return. And then, let me think, where is this? Then you do a dot. Well, hold on. You've done some stuff here. Okay. So do a return there. Well, no, not there. No, after the curly brace. I think you've done a few things here. So do a dot finally.
Capital F or lowercase?
No, capital, lower F. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then do open parentheses, close parentheses, arrow function, and then curly brace open. And then after the next line, do the curly brace close. Yeah, and let's save that. I'm curious if this actually, if that works. What that's saying is, so when you do a promise, you know, then it's do that right after you get the response from the fetch. You know, that's what the then does. But at the very end, this is kind of like a finally in C#, you know, where it's like after you've done everything, you've got all the return, you've processed everything that you do. I want you to do some cleanup task at the end. And I'm curious if that works because context is at a higher level, so that should work. I'm just curious if it does. If you don't mind saving that and see if it still works.
Yeah, it's not finished. This closes. This one's not closing.
It is. It's on that line that you moved down, that one right there. Unless you deleted the previous one that was there. If you scroll down just a little bit, you should see another one. So normally you'd put that, yeah, you got it. So you would take that line and you before had it on the closing curly, you had it right after the closing curly brace on the then. So we just injected a dot finally in there. It's all right.
Yeah, we should probably try that offline because I think
So
there's
it's not
one more
working or it
thing.
is working?
It's not working, but I think it's
Oh,
a
okay.
syntax error.
Yeah, it's kind of hard in an editor like this when you don't have highlighting to see where
I
things close.
completely agree. I'm hoping someday they come up with a way that I can get this all do it in VS
Oh, you
Code.
know what? I know what it is. Okay, so on the line above there, put a closing print, a line above there, put a closing parenthesis. So next to the right curly brace of the then.
What here?
Yeah, well, yeah, either there, yeah, there you go. That's it right there. That should be it.
The indenting is firing all my OCD problems, but I'll leave
Yeah,
it.
same here, but it's technically right.
People don't understand us. Yep, it's working.
Okay. It might be a way to, the reason I was wondering about that is that like, if you get a lot of code in there, that's going to become unruly to kind of figure out, you know, and you could just always put that in the finally, and it's kind of a mental thing instead of worrying about one line of code and the then you just know you always update that after everything's done. You know?
Yeah, because you can see the old versions here. We just console log every single step all over the place. And
yeah, trying to troubleshoot and so forth. Yeah. This is really cool.
okay. Yeah, we were very excited as we got each piece of this working and saw how it affected the UI and the users. That was really rewarding.
Yeah, Alessandra can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for the most part, we're just using it to hide and show fields right now. So stuff like this is something cool to be thinking about, you know, to help the administrative experience, especially with complex relationships like this.
Yeah, I think I did a little attempt on the last bit that I was just like, you know, if drop down equals this, then show the next field. I did that on the last project because I was feeling bold and brave, and that worked. One thing that I would say though, that title actually doesn't really need to be visible, does it? Because that information, you just really need that when you are on the link. So
Well,
it can
he's
be a hidden
using-
field.
He's using title for label, like what you would normally.
No, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't have to be visible because it.
Yeah, it does, because when you're editing a content item, that's what shows up in your list.
I understand
Is-
that, but it's going to be pre-filled. That field will be pre-filled with a formula. So when you are entering the data, you don't actually need to see it. It will just build itself. I mean, when you're still
But it is
testing to see if
shown.
it's working fine.
But it is shown in the list. So when he does this, right?
Yeah, do you see?
Yeah.
PBM sponsor.
Yeah, but
All you need to do.
You are correct. I feel it's reassuring to see, but you're exactly
As
right.
a developer, I like it on,
And-
but like technically you don't actually need it. I like just to see like, oh, okay, it updated. Oh, right, you know.
I'm glad you brought that up because now it seems like magic.
but in the
You know,
other,
now when you go,
but in the other one,
when you know
there,
too sexy and you go in here and you do this, you're like, wow, how is that being done?
Huh?
That's the kind of thing that looks like magic.
that's what I thought it would mess up, is that right there, but it doesn't. You're right.
Because yeah, this is like what we chose is that one, that's the asterisk, and the field is still there. You just don't see it when you're editing. That's all.
And that's even better. That's cool.
DNN even knows better. Hashtag registered mark. Trademark. Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah. All that said, I agree that I like the, oh yeah, it worked. Personally, I like having it there, but you don't technically don't, because that field is just for you to look for when you're in the lists.
Yeah, it's much nicer.
Unless
Right.
you want to, of course, unless you want to have the option of you can actually have your whatever in here as well. Like, you know, if you type something in there, they'll just leave that in there. And but if you don't not gonna edit whatsoever, there's no need for it to be there.
Very cool.
I can't believe you turned me on to the idea that I can actually hide the title field and it all still works. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and the other thing that we actually, that's also, we don't use title because we need the field title a lot. So we tend to use label for the administrative title that we use.
Yeah.
So we have label as this is the too sexy label of this
Label in
content
this case would be much
item.
more logical.
Because you're just labeling that and it's like a secondary thing. Because title is such a common field for us to have.
Yeah.
It's helpful whenever you need, you know, the content is going to be something more generic, but you need something more specific in the back end as a reference or a label on it. It helps with that. But well, this is very, very
You
cool.
probably run into that.
Yeah, some of them,
You
they
type-
don't let you use it, yeah.
Yeah, they're reserved
This
names.
can be easily confused. I like that kind of stuff.
I mean, you can still use, but the same thing with name, because they have, well, actually that was with the liquid that shall not be named content. They actually had something called name and it was very confused when we use a name. They let us do the label name for the title, for the field, But then they have something else called name as well. Which was like a admin thing. It's confusing.
Very, very cool stuff, Jeremy. Thank you for sharing that. That's some cool tips right there. Powerful stuff.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot more to it, I think. I think as that area of Too Sexy grows and gets more access. I mean, right now, just knowing that you've got the sxc.data and there's a whole bunch of functions there, you can start to do all the things that you normally thought you only would do on the back end in C#. Really cool. A lot of possibilities.
Very cool.
I've lost the button to stop sharing my screen. Oh, thank you.
I'll take care of it for you. So no worries. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Oh, what was that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I thought you said something. Thanks everybody for joining. Well, next month we will be on February the 16th, I believe. And we'll have this one as the earlier one at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be after DNN Summit. So barring no volunteers to present or anything like that, we'll have a recap of the DNN Summit. And but hopefully we can fit a session in there as well. If anybody has anything they'd like to share or something cool that they learned at Summit, yeah, that might be an idea as well. Instead of just a traditional kind of run through or recap of it, we could add on a few, quick show and tells of things that people learned on it, and have various people take 5 minutes or so and share some things that they picked up they didn't know before. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, maybe we put the request out now to some of our regulars, those who are on with us now, and some of our regular guests, and they come and share 1 or 2 things they got out of the conference. That might be a nice wrap up for the conference.
We'll just plan on doing that unless somebody kind of steps up and says, oh my gosh, I've got to present this. So we'll do that. That's really cool. I appreciate everybody joining. We'll go ahead and end the recorded part of the session. And everybody has a great one. Thanks for joining us on YouTube.
What about one quick plug for the upcoming Too Sexy Octane DNN meetup?
Absolutely, but you put me on the spot and I don't have that information in front of me, but it is the first Friday.
February 3rd at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time.
There you go.
There you go. Good night, all.
All right. Well, have a great one, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Bye.